There's a lot of possibilities here. Bank records, tax returns, business deals, all can tell their own stories. They might say that the Trump family and the president himself have done nothing wrong, no ties to Russia, like he always tweets. Then again, they might not. But how easy are these records to obtain in the first place in a money laundering case like the one that Mueller could be pursuing? Bloomberg says Mr. Trump owes Deutsche Bank around $300 million. Can Mueller just walk in and get those records? I got some details on investigations and prosecution tactics from Alex Swoyer. She's a lawyer and a legal reporter at the Washington Times.
Alex, exactly how broad is the mandate that Mueller has been handed by DOJ?
So the order for the special counsel is extremely broad. It actually in the title says "and related matters." So that should tell you, exactly how far Mueller can go. There's 3 different bullet points. One has to do with Russian interference in the 2016 election. One also has to do with matters related to officials that worked with the Trump campaign in any capacity, which is also pretty broad, right? Sure. And then the third says any related matters to, the statute that regards special counsel. So you really have quite broad of reach, and even if he found something that he thought was a question about whether or not it dealt with the Russian interference or if it was within his scope, he could go to the AG's office and ask for permission to pursue those matters.
When it comes to something like money laundering, let's say with Don Jr. or Jared Kushner, again, it's not exactly related to Russian interference in 2016, but it sounds like, based on what you said, that could fall under the guidelines given to Mueller.
Right, and especially because we have to remember this is an investigation, so he's trying to find out who is linked to who and for what reason. So if there's money laundering charges against anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign, Paul Manafort, for example, what was that money laundering in regards to, right? Mm-hmm. There's an argument there that those charges would fall within the scope of Mueller's investigation.
When it comes to getting a bank record, let's say, or a tax form, can Mueller go to a grand jury, go to a judge and say, give me the subpoena, and then he just gets the records? There's
been reports that they have handed over bank records relating to the Trump family's real estate company, right? And so if the White House has obviously disputed that, we don't really know. The statement from the bank says that they cooperate with foreign governments during any sort of litigation, so that leads you to believe that if they were asked, they would hand over that. And it depends really if the bank is going to be part of the litigation also, whether there needs to be a subpoena or not. Because we don't really know if they would be a party. Would they be a defendant? Exactly. Okay. There's so much question mark there about what role would the bank play in the litigation.
The president doesn't only have the option to shut it down or let it continue.
Right. So if hypothetically Mueller was fired, and at this point there doesn't seem to be any sort of suggestion that would happen, it would be up to Rob Rosenstein if he wants to go ahead and appoint someone new. And if that's the case, then those documents would stay within the investigation. Everybody says if he's fired, what happens? The investigation most likely would continue.
You were saying the president can't be necessarily legally compelled to meet with Mueller and his team, but it's more pressure.
Prosecutors can charge people without speaking to them all the time. It happens, right? A defendant might not know he's even a defendant, right? That's how the form of investigation. They're very quiet, and that's part of the advantage, right, of being a prosecutor. So he doesn't necessarily have to meet with them to still be a subject or a defendant in a eventually indictment, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But politically speaking, it would not look good if the President of the United States wasn't complying with Mueller's investigation.
All right, these are lots of questions, and they are tough. You can tell it's tough to prove also. Over Christmas week, Newsweek published an article titled, "Is Donald Trump's dark Russian secret hiding in Deutsche Bank's vaults?" You can read it, see what you think. But if the answer is no, just so you know, the public might never see these documents. If it is a yes, it could take a while. And at this point, only a few prosecutors know the answer, or maybe think they do.